Hi, I'm Jim Boak. Welcome to this segment of In the Dirt. Today we're going to jump in the truck and just take a road trip and have a look at some of the fields and some of the things that are showing up after this spectacular winter. We are running late this season, maybe one of the latest since back toward the end of the 70s. So it's a good time actually to get out and take a look at some of the issues, some of the challenges that we'll be facing coming up in the spring, and maybe offer a few solutions for some of these challenges. So in this field on the right, what we're looking at is a fall tillage job that was done under fairly wet conditions, high moisture conditions. So it lacks uniformity, and there's quite a number of problems that are going to result from that when you try to create a seed bed in the spring. And it's one of those situations where you have to assess the field and look at just how much of that field has been put at risk, and you may decide not to try and fix it all in one shot. You may decide to put it off until the following season or after a wheat crop comes off, because you don't want to work the whole field 2 or 3 times. You just really want to treat the problem area. In the field behind us, we're looking at a situation where the primary tillage equipment was not set level. And it shows up rather dramatically as the snow is leaving the field, because we can see that at the edges of the machine, where it's perhaps overlapping or perhaps digging in a little bit too deep, we've actually raised the surface of the ground. So it becomes very difficult to manage that with a piece of secondary tillage equipment in one pass. However, this is a situation where vertical tillage, the true vertical tillage machines, shine in this situation, because they can actually create a decent seed bed without having to go in quite so deep. And while you may not completely level the surface, you'll create a very uniform, level planting surface without losing your moisture. So we want to take a look at a couple of examples of what we could do to manage the flow of water and rolling ground. And in this first example, we're looking at a water course here that where we've not done primary tillage, but we actually probably should consider making this wider and turning it into a grass waterway to protect it, and to try and minimize the amount of nutrients that can be washed down through these hollows, and also minimize the amount of soil particulates that would get into the water supply. We should consider these grass waterways an asset to our operation to keep our farmland on the farm and keep our nutrients on the farm, and not let them get down into the water supply. In this next example, we're looking at rolling ground where a significant amount of water has ended up in the valleys. And with hay fields and no-till, we sometimes think that there's very little we can do about that. The moisture lands on frozen ground perhaps and has nowhere else to go when it melts but run to the bottom. But we can actually do a number of things, especially with vertical tillage, to prevent that water from ponding so severely and significantly. Vertical inline rippers with low disturbance shanks and points, we're able to actually cross the hill against the direction of the flow of water, allow that water to soak in as it melts or as the rain falls. And the true vertical tillage, the surface tillage tools, they're also able to dethatch and aerate sod and actually no-till fields as well, and slow the movement of that water if we work across the direction of the flow. So there's a number of things we can do to prevent that moisture from reaching the bottom and rendering those low areas relatively unproductive because of the amount of water that lays on there and delays planting. So the final 2 things we want to look at today is root balls and erosion. And while they're not at all connected, we have examples that are close by here. We're always asked on root balls what's better, to leave them down or roll them up. And from the planter's perspective and secondary tillage perspective, it's better that they're not there, that they're left down, aerated below the surface, or ground up and left on the surface so they have a chance to break down over the winter. As we can see in this one example, the root balls are, significant bundles, and we can only handle that with vertical tillage or a disc. Whereas if we're able to grind these root balls up or leave them below the surface, we can easily handle it with field cultivators, more traditional way of preparing a seed bed. So on the subject of erosion, we have a look here at on some rolling ground, what can happen even in a no-till situation. And whether it's no-till or conventional, erosion is our number one enemy, and we have to make every effort we possibly can to prevent soil particulates and nutrients from getting into the water supply and carrying our farmland away. So while we can make some efforts to slow this water down with rip-rap and stone piles, the real solution is grass waterways, something we can manicure and that will control this water, still allow it to drain off the land, but not carry soil and nutrients away with it. So it's a very great responsibility, and whether you're no-till or conventional, something we have to work very hard at. And this is a good time of year to look at your fields and make some assessments and make some decisions on what you're going to do to prevent it in the coming season. So there you have it, a look at a few of the issues that are starting to appear as the snow recedes. The snow can be very helpful in as an indicator to show you where you've made some mistakes, perhaps in primary tillage. As it's receding, you can see different levels in the field that you're probably going to have to deal with, and so you can make some decisions on what kind of tools you need. You can also take a look at some of the issues such as erosion. You can make some determinations on how you're going to handle that, whether you have to rent a piece of equipment or hire a neighbor to come in and help out to solve these problems. One thing for sure, we don't want to leave this till the last minute, till go time. You want to get out, have a look, and decide how you're going to handle these and be prepared when it's time to go.